Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest speaking from the soul to the soul of humanity. One of her advocacy, no other than Miss Soreya James.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Ryan. Can you please introduce more about yourself?
I can, yes. I am a middle aged woman navigating the beautiful transition of midlife here in Copenhagen, originally from Auckland in New Zealand. A mother of one. My boy has now left the nest, so I'm empty nesting.
Hmm.
And I've been on a transformational journey since I was 19, so a lot of years um, traversing the waves of life and writing about it, reading about it, teaching about it, guiding people through the same spaces. And now just enjoying a bit of freedom in the islands and in the heat.
Yes,
So,
the heat
yeah,
indeed.
yes.
And Miss Soreya James, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today let's talk about psychedelics, retreats, and integration. What initially
Okay.
drew to you explore psychedelics and retreat work?
So as I said, I've been on this journey for such a long time, and I feel like there's many, many layers of transformation that we can go through. And I've been with masters and teachers and done, you know, trainings and facilitator trainings, and I've just done so much work in the transformational space that it felt like the next natural layer, probably about 18 years ago now, was to journey with psychedelics, with Mother Nature herself. And so I had an initial journey with the grandmother, ayahuasca. And just over the last the last decade and a half, I've been journeying with the mother, with psilocybin, and I've just found it to be such a beautiful medicine to work with. And rather than working with humans now, I prefer to work with the medicine of Mother Nature, and I find that Mother knows best. So when there's an answer that I require that is deeper than where my own wisdom can go or anybody else's wisdom outside of me, I take a microdose and then I sit in stillness with her and listen to what she has to say. And the messages that come through are always so beautiful and joyful and full of love and compassion. So psychedelics have become an ally for me in my life over the last wee while. And now I work with them with my clients. It's really beautiful.
Can you share a pivotal moment from your psychedelic journey that reshaped your perspective?
Yeah, I could probably call on the very first journey that I did, which was a deeper journey with psilocybin, where and it was quite a full journey. So it was a complete day, and I had a guide with me, and I was working with the energy of abundance and prosperity and kind of what the next steps in my career and my life were. And I was waiting upon a an answer from our Ministry of Social Development to see whether I would get some funding to take my work into the next phase. And the very following day, and I've been waiting about 4 or 5 months for this answer, having presented a business plan and what have you. And the very following day, I received a phone call saying that the business plan had been looked over and that had been accepted and that I would receive the funding. So there's something very innate in the direct connection between your intention of asking for what it is that you need and then Mother Nature providing. And I've had lots of smaller examples of that over time. And my book, Metamorphosis, has actually been written through microdosing with Mother Nature and allowing her to speak through me, as opposed to my ego or the personality writing the book and creating my work. So, yeah, those are probably two examples that stand out.
How has your personal experience with psychedelics influenced your professional path?
I feel like she the medicine itself is wanting to really speak to us in a way that maybe human nature or the human psyche has not really been willing to hear. A lot of people are fearful of psychedelics, and so there's a certain type of person that will explore, and then there's those that won't. And I feel like those of us that are exploring with the medicine are it's drawing upon more of our creativity. So we're coming through with books and with screenwriting and with beautiful movies and offerings that seem to be deeper and more real. So in terms of my own career, like I said, it's actually written the body of work of Metamorphosis. It's helped me to design the actual course content and the retreat content in a way that I don't think my mind could have done perhaps without it. So it really supports the creative life force within us as humans. It's almost like a guide, like a
Mhm.
beautiful guide. Yeah.
Miss Soraya, let's talk about the retreat experience. What do most people misunderstand about psychedelic retreats before attending?
So I haven't personally attended a retreat. It's been a choice of mine not to. I much prefer to work with psychedelics one on one or one to two people. It's such a powerful medicine that energetically you hook into all the people, which is called the field around you. And so when you're a sensitive or an empath, such as many of us are, me included, you're really picking up on the psyche of everybody. And so my personal preference is to not attend psychedelic retreats or to hold psychedelic retreats. But when I'm working one on one with a client, a one on one personal retreat, then we will work with the medicine and very gently, very, very gently. And yet, I know that there are a lot of offerings in the world now that offer psychedelic retreats, and they have the nurses and the psychologists and the team of people to support. But me personally, I prefer to do one-on-one retreats both ways.
Let's talk about the integration gap. Why is the integration phase often overlooked and why is it so official or critical?
There's a lot of people at the moment that are searching for something deeper, a deeper meaning, a deeper purpose. And since the world got turned upside down, 4 or 5 years ago, there's a lot of people that are scrambling and trying to find something that creates meaning for them or something that is going to support them in their life that is not traditional therapies. And so then they may look at or to psychedelics as that support system without having the knowledge or the awareness or the understanding of the depth to where this medicine can take you. And the integration phase is where the medicine sits in your system for days and weeks and sometimes months, and it does the continued work for you. And if you're not sitting with the medicine, if you are not listening, if you are not journaling, if you are not allowing yourself to take that time, like with a newborn baby, you need to be fully present with it. You need to give it some nurturing and some nourishment and time for rest. It's the same as when we're taking the medicine inside of our bodies. The integration process is the most important part because that's when the depth of the messages begin to come through. So it's similar to doing a yoga practice or a breath work practice. It's in the relaxation or the shavasana where the medicine of that practice can actually move through the body and go to the places where it knows to go because our the intelligence of the medicine knows what your mind needs to receive, what your body needs to receive, what your cells need to receive, but you need to be still and silent for it to do the work. Otherwise, it can be a little bit of a shaky process post use.
And Miss Soreya, what are the some signs that someone has not properly integrated a psychedelic experience?
Some of the symptoms and signs would be that they are out of balance in their nervous system, out of balance in their mental bodies. So there's a bit of a distortion of reality. If we're talking high usage, it has been known that people have gone into psychosis, which this is if the medicine is being abused in some way. The My experience personally and the time that I've been using it has been very gentle because there's a deep respect for the medicine itself. It's only in the overuse or the dishonoring of it, you know, taking too much, taking it in the wrong environment or with the wrong people, or taking it as a recreational drug as opposed to a medicine. So the I, I guess to sum that up, the direct correlation between how much you take and how deeply you respect the medicine is the correlation to how your journey would be supported post psychedelic intake.
How can individuals integrate profound insights into their daily lives without ongoing professional support?
Sorry, say that again, Daniel.
How can individuals integrate profound insights into their daily lives without ongoing professional support?
Without ongoing professional support.
Yes.
Through awareness and through actually seeking out somebody that knows how to work with the medicine, and to not use it as some kind of trip or some kind of uh, you know journey that is, I just keep coming back to that word respect. If somebody has worked with a professional or worked with the medicine and then are wanting to have that medicine support them, microdosing is the best way to do that. But again, you need to understand how the medicine works. You need to understand the professional support that can sit behind it if you need to reach out for somebody. It's not a game to play. It's not a sweetie. It is a very, very serious matter if somebody doesn't take this seriously. But if you are with the medicine and you're microdosing and you've had a journey, there are things that you can do by journaling each and every day, by sitting in meditation and asking for the medicine that is still in the cells to continue to speak to you. Because as I say, it can last weeks or months after a major journey. The integration piece is incredibly important, and I wouldn't recommend trying the medicine without some kind of professionality or someone that can at least support you during those times of taking the medicine and integrating. Yeah, it's not something that I would do on your own.
Mr. Royal, let's talk about the psychedelics and mental health. How does psychedelic differ from other therapeutic tools for trauma or depression?
It's a very big question, Daniel. In terms of, there are so many therapies out there these days in terms of working with trauma, especially somatic therapies. And I feel like what we need now is something that is going to take us to what we call the core wound. And as a therapist myself, you can work with clients for years and years and years, looping and going back through history and generational trauma and speaking about the wounding itself. Whereas psychedelics in one session can undo, unravel, and go and take you right to that core wound space, releasing and removing the layers of trauma that sits in our bodies and in our minds. And I've had experiences where people have come with severe depression, and with one one journey, with working with a higher dose, their depression has lifted. And with just a little bit of ongoing support around the integration phase and speaking about what is actually being activated, their depression is, it's just no longer there. So psychedelics is becoming a very prominent part of psychotherapy and somatic therapies now, with integrating psychedelics into psychotherapy and psychology models for that exact reason, because we don't have time these days to sit in therapy for years and years on end. People want to get on with their lives and be joyful and as much as they can. So it's playing a major part in the role of PTSD, especially, and with lots of different mental health aspects in our lives too.
What boundaries should people consider before using a psychedelics for healing?
Oh, they should definitely be very careful or mindful and discerning about who they choose to work with, where they receive their medicine from, um, understanding the medicine, like really researching the aspects of what this medicine is. And when I talk about psychedelics, I specifically work with psilocybin. So I'm not working with any of the other psychedelic medicines. I've chosen to just work with this one medicine. So when they're working with psilocybin, you absolutely need to understand what the medicine's doing, how it's working in your system, what the integration experience is, and to work with a practitioner that you feel safe and trusting with, because there are people out there that are working with this medicine that don't have the depth of knowledge or the depth of lived experience with it. So I would say that it's really important to choose your practitioner or your facilitator and understand that they've worked with this medicine for long enough to know what all of the different facets are. And one of the boundaries also, I would say, is that when you are working with a facilitator and with the medicine, is to have some sessions without the medicine first of all, to gain a deeper bonding and connection with that person that you're then working with.
How do you address the risks in your work, Miss Raya?
How do I address the risk in my work?
Yes.
That's a really good question. Thank you for asking. So I listen with the medicine. And I know sometimes this might sound a little bit woo woo, but the medicine speaks to me in ways that allows my mind to soften and allows the true intuition to come through. And therefore, there's a field of consciousness that I work within. And if I feel like there is someone that is coming to receive, that is coming for more of a trip journey, then I simply won't work with them. If I feel like their intention is not true and is not real, and that we're actually working with real trauma as opposed to them just wanting to have some kind of psychedelic trippy experience, I won't work with them, because I believe that the risks are higher when you're working with someone that hasn't got that deeper intention for healing as opposed to just for fun. I haven't had an experience with a client or with myself that has caused any concern. And I know that the medicine, when you work with it with that deep respect and you work with the correct dosage, when you trust your client trusts in you, and you have that bond and that rapport with them, that the risks are a lot lower. But I also know that there are people definitely out there that are taking risks with the medicine. So it's something I take very seriously in my work.
Miss Raya, as speaking from the soul and the soul of humanity, what are your short term and long term goals?
Mm. I just know when I look around, Daniel, especially traveling in countries like Thailand and other third world countries, that there is so much suffering. Like there are a lot of Israelis and Russians here on Copenhagen, and I feel beneath the surface of the human suffering. And I personally have been through my own journey of struggle over the years and had a lot of lived experience with going through different transitions in life. And so for me at this stage of my life, I really have a strong prayer to meet people at the level of the soul, because there's so much superficiality and pretentiousness in our world that the conversations I have, I want them to be deeper and more real and raw. And so the work that I'm presenting out into the world with the book and with the TV series and all the little pieces that I'm playing, the retreats, the online workshops, it has to be soul led and soul lived and meet people at that much deeper level than the mind or even the heart or even the body. So, in terms of goals, I would love for Metamorphosis to to take life and become a mainstream offering, a series, because it's such a powerful body of work that has been created through Mother Nature, and to have that on the big screen and to reach millions of people across the globe would be amazing. It feels like a big goal to set, but I've always been a big player in life, so we'll see what life has for me. And the other part is just to be a beautiful mother and a beautiful friend and a beautiful human, and live with kindness and compassion and care for human nature, because there's a lot of that not happening in our world. So to play just a small part in that is a very heart centered and soul centered goal.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Soraya, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
So I lost you for a moment there.
What will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Move your body. Move your body. Someone asked me the other day, like, if you were to give a message to the world, I would say if I was standing on stage and speaking to a million people, I would put some music on and I would get people to sing and to dance and to hug each other and to, yeah, just to keep moving and doing the things that bring you the most joy, even if it's a hobby or even if it's just a moment in your day amongst your busy, crazy, manic lifestyle. It's like just allow your body to give your body space to remind you who you are, and that we're here to experience the world through the eyes of our body and our soul.
Hmm. Thank you for that advice, Miss Soraya. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning, Daniel, when I reread your information. There's two books that have inspired me, and most people will know Eat, Pray, Love. I remember when I first read that book, it was like, oh my gosh, this is a journey that I want to go on. I could really follow her story, and of course she was in her mid 30s, and I probably read it around the same time in my life. And watching the movie, I don't know, I've seen it about a dozen times. I think that book has inspired a lot of women to live in freedom and to let go of the things that don't serve them, let go of the careers or the relationships or whatever it might be. It was a huge influx of feminine rising through that time. So that's one book that has really inspired me. But the book that I'm reading at the moment is called Cave in the Snow, and it's a beautiful story about a female monk that went and lived in the cave in Tibet for 12 years. And it's a very, very powerful story that is reaching deep into my heart and helping me to remember that silence is where we find the messages, where we really receive the messages of the truth, to not make ourselves so busy in our lives. So those are two books that have really inspired me.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that recommended books, Miss Soraya. And I hope our readers or viewers or listeners will read them. What boundaries should people consider before using a psychedelics for healing?
Haven't you already asked that question?
No, not yet.
Huh. What boundaries should they use before?
Before using
Ah,
psychedelics
before
for
using
healing.
for
Yes.
healing.
Yes.
It's psychedelics, as I keep saying, it's not something to just play around with. So, what I find is that when people are ready to work with this medicine, it will show up in their life somehow. And it's incredibly important to understand your body, to understand your mind, to understand what it is that you're particularly working on, and to bring intention to your session. Like, that's probably the most important thing, is the intention that you set will then support the healing process itself. And like I said before, to select and be very discerning about with whom you work with the medicine. There's a lot of wonderful clinical psychologists that are now working with psychedelics, that have the depth of experience and the depth of knowledge and the lived experience of working with the medicine themselves. I certainly wouldn't go into the jungle on an island like Copenhagen with someone that I've only just met on the street, for example. It's about trust, trusting in the people that you're working with, and trusting that you can hand yourself over to let this person guide you. Because when you're working with psychedelics, you lose complete perception of your physical and mental body. And I know that there have been stories told about abuse happening through sessions, um, and boundaries being crossed. So it's really using your discernment and your intuition to ensure that you're in a safe and sacred container with whom it is that you're working with. And if you're going to do it on your own, it's just about taking a risk, but understanding what may or may not happen. And I certainly wouldn't recommend that, in all honesty, unless you're microdosing.
How can advocate for responsible psychedelic use in a world that often lends toward extremes versus the glorification versus dominization?
Mm. I feel that as practitioners, we have a responsibility to communicate within, our particular field, and bring more awareness to light. It's really about having conversations and bringing it out on social media, and bringing out the myth of working with psychedelics, understanding the depth of the medicine itself. It's such a fine line, Daniel, because you've got people, many people now, that are experimenting with it as a party drug. You've got people experimenting with it on retreats in jungles. You've got people experimenting with it on retreats in centers, and then you've got the clinical side of things as well. So, people are going to do what they do, and unless they take personal responsibility for their own intake, for their own journey, for their own integration, and that means, working with a facilitator as well, then we could get into a spot of trouble with it. So I think the main thing is that we speak out, even though it's illegal in many countries and many states. It's still got to be understood. So the more that we can legalize this to be used in a very safe container and in clinical space, the more people will heal on a deeper level. So I guess, to sum that up, us as facilitators, we need to actually put our heads above water and talk about it more out in the open spaces, and just deal with the fear, deal with the uncertainty, deal with the anxiety that sits around it as well. You very much got the dark and light when you're working with psychedelics, and yeah,
So,
yeah.
where do you see the most promising developments in psychedelic assisted therapy?
I definitely feel it. It's in the clinical space, and in states such as Los Angeles, and they're just starting to talk about it here in Thailand as well, about legalizing it into clinical spaces. Australia is also beginning to open up psychedelic assisted therapy training. There are psychedelic assisted therapy trainings going on worldwide now. There are conferences that are happening. And so I feel like the movement, excuse me, the movement is happening whether we like it or whether we want it or don't want it or not, and that Mother Nature is actually creating that movement. There's this massive resurgence that has happened in the last decade with psychedelics, and it's going to happen or not. So I think I've forgotten your question now. I think I went off on a bit of a tangent.
You
But no,
did.
yeah. So through
Yeah.
through clinical space, when I'm working with a client, they're blindfolded and they have ear muffs on, not ear muffs, sorry, earphones on with music. And the first part of the session is that we are talking and that we're allowing the medicine to move through them and deepening, and the conversation that happens before and after. It's all so important. Like you need to have all the pieces to allow for the safety of the medicine to work. So definitely in clinical space with therapists that are trained and have years behind them and have the lived experience of working with the medicine themselves is the safest place for people to go.
Miss Soraya, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in its fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in its fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first
Oh my
season.
goodness.
Please listen.
Amazing.
Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. Yes, thank you, Mr. Raya. So let's wrap up the discussion for today. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone curious about psychedelics for personal growth?
Do your research. Do your research. Don't take it lightly. Respect the medicine and come with intention, and know that she will give you the most beautiful, beautiful messages that no other aspect of your life can give you.
Miss Soreya James, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy or any projects that you're doing right now?
Yes. So the the online audio experience or multimedia experience that has just been created, Metamorphosis, is available, and we'll put the links wherever the links need to go. And it's a digital experience with a memoir, with music, with meditation, written through the arc of a woman's midlife experience with psychedelics and the beautiful medicine of Mother Nature. So I'd love for as many people to access that as possible.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Soraya James because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering, well, psychedelics to come. So, Miss Soraya, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate it. Thank you so
More
much.
to come, people. See you soon.